Well, man, when you think of all of these things together, it is motivating even to myself. But I'll tell you, probably like many of us, I never think about what I've accomplished. I just think of what is left to do, and it always feels like it's never quite enough. And I think, for me, that's been one of the tenets, probably, that has driven me to be successful, is just, continuing to persevere, raising the bar, getting enjoyment, and building self-worth and self-esteem and confidence based on what, I'm able to accomplish. And funny, sometimes the most motivating thing out there is hearing the naysayers and thinking of all the times that you've been told that you just can't do it. So I think that's probably pushed me ahead even more. But as far as values, probably very, very typical to a lot of my peers in the space, including yourself: hard work, great work ethic, striving for excellence, and really also, I have to say, being loyal to those that help you get there and building a great team. So probably, I think I'm one of those people that just has that gene, that entrepreneur gene. And, it really hasn't taken effort. I've always been interested in solving problems. My mother used to tell stories about when I was little, I would create like this trading mechanism for all of the Easter candy so that I could monetize the amount of Easter candy and then trade it for different work that needed to be done around the house. So I think from an early age, I kind of picked up just an aptitude for liking to create things and solve problems in a creative way and organize. I love organizing stuff. As a teenager, I moved often, which, in retrospect, it was great for me because it forced me to get out of my comfort zone, really, be able to work well with all sorts of people, lots of diversity, lots of different arrangements. And let's face it, when you're a new kid in school, especially as a teenager, you're never the most popular kid. In fact, generally, nobody is going to talk to you unless you can muster up the confidence to make the first move, get involved, and really, be humble enough to appreciate the fact that you're in someone else's territory and you know nothing, and you need to earn their respect before they're ever going to like you and before you can be accepted. So that was really great. That gave me a lot of experience. I played lots of sports. Arguably, I probably have learned more about leadership and overcoming challenges in life from the coaches that I had and the teams that I played with all the extracurriculars. And then I had taken this programming class in high school, pretty much because I was forced. There was nothing else available because we had enrolled in this school late, of course. and I was stuck. I was a typical teenager. Like I wanted to be a fashion designer. I was interested in like sewing and makeup and like all the things that traditional women should be interested in at that age. The last thing that I wanted to do is take this coding class with a bunch of geeks, that worked in their parents' garage. I just thought, this is not me. I will never have any interest in this. But it was the only thing. And, I learned I had this aptitude and I loved technology. And it was fun. It was design. It was artistic. And I always liked math. So it was like, the ideal scene of putting things together. So that kind of, I had that great foundation and was studying art and architecture and had a job at a ski resort at the time. And I lived in this condominium and found, look, there was an opportunity. I needed furniture, and all of the people that lived in this condominium complex had condos as income properties, and they didn't have any furniture, and they all lived in different areas. So I was the youngest in the group, and I said, how about if I go pick out your furniture and then you can pay me 10% of the total cost, and I'll save you money. And really, I was interested in my own self, getting furniture for my own place. And I just saw there was an opportunity. So it was just, a funny story about solving my own problem. And I was passionate about it. I loved what I was doing. So it started out as this little side deal, and then I got introduced to realtors, and I made a name for myself. And before I knew it, by age 19, I sold that business called Resort Furnishings for a very, very small amount that I learned later on. But so I think I didn't really see myself as an entrepreneur. I just saw myself as, I like to solve problems, and I've always developed, a love or enjoyment for being able to do something that makes a difference. And ideally, if that can also, be a career for myself and allow me to grow, then that's great. Sure. So yes, I was the only girl. I may have been the only girl in history that has ever taken that class. For the record, I also took woodshop. I didn't, develop as much of a, love for that, but it was fun. I built a few things. But yeah, so it was definitely challenging just, to be, I was a new student, and I'm surrounded by all of these guys, and I already had this, kind of the stereotype stigma of how much I was going to hate this class. And, I became actually great friends with a lot of the people in the class, and I do think there is, a challenge with getting women interested in technology. And it's not something that we're probably going to succeed trying to sell the story. I really think that we do need that top-down approach, which is selling the story, highlighting mentors in the technology field, making, technology for women cool and modern. And, this is something that we're going to break some of those traditions that have bound the thought process. But at the same time, I think we need a bottom-up strategy. And that means, not necessarily giving kids a choice. And I know this is not a popular belief, because today is all about choices and freedom and liberties. But I'm a parent. I have 2 daughters, and I will tell you that if I tell my kids that they can choose everything that they're going to eat for breakfast, they would have donuts every day. If they could choose every class that they would take, they would be taking, dancing, gymnastics, and they would never excel in math. They wouldn't take anything in technology. My youngest would probably take a class in toys if that was available. So as parents, we actually have to establish a discipline in recognizing our responsibility, and as teachers, as governments, etc., is really to ensure that our children, especially women, have the opportunity to be exposed, to develop an aptitude to all of the things that they're going to need and explore in life. And technology is becoming one of the most prominent tenets of our education system. And unless girls are, in my opinion, forced into this at a very young age, then they're probably not likely going to pick, a technology field. It's not cool. It has a stigma still, as much as we want to pretend like that's changing. It's not changing fast enough. And I have my own testaments for my own kids who, just like any normal kid, totally adverse to even thinking of taking a coding class or robotics. And I have forced them to do that, just like they have taken piano and done different things. And, one of them loves it. The other one, who knows? She's interested in architecture. She's interested in, math and engineering. Maybe not so much, the coding. She hated it. But unless you try it, and unless we ensure that girls have that opportunity, you just don't know. And it's too late when, they've already chosen a career path. And then lastly, I will say, I think technology for women is one of the most exciting fields for women to expand into. And if you think about it, like I mean, it's almost notorious that engineers today, software engineers, pretty much can write their own paycheck. They have total liberty. They work whatever hours they want. And there's many of them are self-taught. I can't think of a better scenario if you take the traditional, mother that has to multitask. They have all these different skills and they need flexibility in order to balance that work-life scenario. Plus, this is the majority of consumers on our planet. As the World Wide Web continues to grow and e-commerce takes over. So yeah, I think tremendous opportunity. We definitely need to apply both top-down and bottom-up approaches. Sure. So many people have heard. I did not start out as a payments expert. In fact, furthest thing from my mind would be that I would be getting involved in payments, let alone be interacting with banks. And part of that was because I started out as an online merchant. And it's kind of a funny story. So in 2008, and many of us remember 2008 in the US was probably one of the worst years. Definitely worst year to start a business ever. But we were in a position where I needed to. I just retired from another career that I had, and I decided to start this, kind of an idea, doing some consulting on the side, and just to make some extra money. That grew into an online business and I was an online merchant and basically failed my way to success. I had a lot of experience in traditional advertising mediums. This was my previous life, developing technology that tracked all sorts of advertising metrics and consumer behavior analytics. So I didn't think that it would be that much of a difference to migrate to an online environment. And I started out bringing the same type of clients on. I thought, everybody is creating a website and making money, and I want to be the next eBay. And I'm just going to start small, and then I'm going to grow from there. And little did I know, mastering the ability or figuring out how to make money as an online merchant and develop this online marketplace was actually paled in comparison to figuring out how to balance chargebacks and payments and the complexity that came with really scaling. So shortening the story, after a few years, we did business, we expanded, we were doing business in Europe, in Australia, even in China, but we couldn't actually crack this nut called chargebacks. It's like every time that we got to a point where we thought, all right, now it's time to pop the champagne bottle and let's celebrate. And then, it's like the very next day I would find all of our funds are on hold. We have this chargeback problem. We got hit by fraud. Because it's this latent, issue that robs all of your profits. So as a business owner, you look at all this cash flow that you're getting and you think that that's margin and you're doing well, and you start to make investments and you're planning your business and you're scaling. And then all of a sudden we have a chargeback problem and we lose a processing relationship. We lose our money. We still have expenses. Well, we literally got down to, and it helps to understand, we were a pretty large scale merchant at the time, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills that we had to pay just to stay in business. And we literally got down to $32,000 to our name. And I had roped my husband in to help. I mean, it was at the point where we said, we either are going to have to go out of business, mortgage our house, like do something, or we need to figure out how to solve this chargeback problem. Because every time that we get ahead, then we take one step forward, we take two steps back. So it was a huge amount of courage and maybe just my ego, maybe because I couldn't actually face failing and realizing this is a problem that can't be solved. I refuse to agree with that theory. And so we hired all of these experts. That wasn't working. We tried everything. That wasn't working. And like anyone would do, push came to shove. And I thought, I'm just going to start interviewing every single person that filed a chargeback. I want to find out what these things are. I'm going to read every single page that was ever illustrated and ever written and understand every diagram about chargebacks, because this is clearly something that I don't understand. So 2,000 pages later and thousands of consumers that we had interviewed in the process, we codified and the entire science, I guess, behind what was creating chargebacks, thinking the whole time that, everyone else clearly knew the recipe to success. And I was the only one that was naive enough not to know how to solve this problem. And then something amazing happened. So we got our business on track. Things were going well. I'm like, you know what? eBay, here I come. Now we've solved this problem. We have all the technology behind us, and we are now ready to scale again. And then something amazing. I started getting calls from investment bankers or some of the individuals that had heard about us in the industry, people that they had interest in our company, even risk managers who were like, these are companies or these are people at banks that had previously closed our merchant accounts. And they were referring me all sorts of merchants and different businesses that also had problems with chargebacks. At first, I thought, this is the best therapy ever, because how fulfilling it is to be able to help someone go through a problem that's so close to your heart. And I had many, many calls with merchants, giving them advice, telling them what they could do. And it's funny, one merchant, I won't say their name, but I'll keep that confidential, was a major enterprise brand. And that's when it hit me. And I thought, maybe there's actually a room for, maybe I could start something about chargebacks, because when I searched online, this was around 2011, 2010, 2011, there was nothing. I couldn't find anything about chargebacks. And so I created this little website thinking, I'm going to create this consulting business. And this is how everything starts, right? It's going to be something small, controlled, little tiny thing. So I created this website. First, my thought was it was going to be called Chargeback Quarterback. My husband hated that name. So we decided on Chargebacks911, because as a merchant, what I really wanted is to dial 911, which is the call for emergency support in the US, and be rescued from the chargeback hell that I'd be living in. I didn't want anything to do with chargebacks. I just wanted to focus on my customers and improve our products, do things like normal businesses do. So Chargebacks911 got created, and for probably a month solid, all I did was write articles. And it was so easy because I had all this pent up frustration and rage about all the things that I had learned about chargebacks, that it was just like fluid. I couldn't stop all the words coming out, and just like authored tons and tons of articles. And it's one of those crazy, crazy stories. Within a matter of weeks, I got a call from the Wall Street Journal, then the New York Times, and something funny. So the Wall Street Journal was first, and they called, the guy that called me, this was a pivotal change in when Chargebacks911 really became born out of necessity. And we decided, hey, actually, this is what we're going to do. Let's, pay off all the debt that we have in the merchant business. And we are going to completely, shift course, and we're going to be a chargeback company. And this guy calls me from the Wall Street Journal, and he said, I'm with the consumer protection, and I want to talk to you about chargebacks. And I thought, okay, this could go two ways. either I could have someone talking to me about how I'm the worst person on earth, fighting chargebacks and doing the worst thing to these innocent consumers, because at the time I had exposed, oh my gosh, there's chargebacks that are not valid. There's chargebacks that like consumers are using against merchants, and you can recover money from them. And like, it's this whole fraud behind the scenes fraud. And so in my mind, I thought, well, I can either talk to this guy with consumer protection in his title, and it's going to be a smear campaign, and he's going to talk about how I am the worst person for merchants because I'm against all consumers. And in my mind, I thought it could be absolutely devastating. It could destroy my entire reputation. And mind you, prior to that, in my previous life, I was all about the customer is always right. Like, this is what I did. It was all customer behavior, science about how to retain customers. My entire thought process was the customer is always right. Exposing chargebacks and what was actually going on behind the scenes, I realized, wait a second, sometimes that customer is wrong. So the second way that, of course, the interview could go is maybe this would be great, and maybe he would turn it into a great story. So at the time, I thought I was really clever. Thought, okay, I'm going to have the interview because, I mean, how often is it that you get a call from the Wall Street Journal? But I'm going to give him my maiden name, which is Eaton, and that way, then he can put the article for Monica Eaton, and nobody will and then, like, no one will actually know I could still become Monica Eaton, because technically my maiden name is Eaton, and that way we're good. So I tell him, my name is Monica Eaton, and this is everything. Well, he calls me back. He does an interview. He says, I think I'd like to put Eaton-Cardone. What do you think of that? I said, I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should just have Eaton, because I'm already thinking if I can actually just control the narrative here, where just in case it's a horrible article. Well, he ends up creating, which my name is now, and I agree, it doesn't sound like the most eloquent name, Monica Eaton-Cardone, because he published this amazing article, and so that's my name in the industry, and it stuck. Little did I know that we would end up really becoming, a thought leader in payments. From there, obviously, lots and lots of inbound demand for chargebacks, thinking that, this was all merchant focused, because at the time, my view was every bank was an enemy to the system. And merchants, from myself, we were victims. And I just wanted to fight for the little guy. And this was, part of, I think, what made us successful. Our entire team had experienced some of the injustice that came from invalid chargebacks. So we were fighting for a cause. It wasn't just about making money. It was, proving something to the world and helping every merchant fend for themselves. But interestingly, as we grew the business, and this has now been 10 years, 5 years ago, we stumbled into this scenario with institutions, financial institutions, which led us to build Fi911 and separate the brands a little bit. After discovering that, when it comes to a problem like this with disputes, chargebacks, a dispute between a buyer and a seller, there's no such thing as only, one enemy and one good guy. Really, this is a scenario where everybody suffers and everyone is a victim. And it's been very interesting. The more that, I have gotten into payments, and the more that our company has expanded, the intelligence that we have and the tools that we're creating, and with all that passion to really genuinely help solve a problem and make the world a better place for transacting and safer, both for merchants and for consumers, then we've discovered when it comes to chargebacks, that everyone is a victim at the end of the day, and chargebacks is an enemy to all. And this is really, it's like every single year I learn all the stuff that I thought I knew that I actually didn't know. So it's been an amazing journey so far, and still a long ways to go, I think. So I struggled, probably, I'm confident now enough to admit, if you would have talked to me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, I think with age, then you appreciate some of the challenges that you have as opportunities to get stronger. And so you can, rewrite history in a way and look at those as positive aspects that you can talk about. So many don't know, I definitely started out in business at a very young age. For a very long time, believe it or not, I would lie about my age because I just found there was a prejudice. And so I could not actually be the same age that I was. I didn't have an opportunity to stay in college and get a degree. And so for the longest time, I also found I had such insecurity about that, because it was like, I'm never quite, I don't have those bars. And, and so I would try to make up for that. But it was always like this little thing that you just think, you know what, you're never quite good enough. And then, of course, I was a woman in business. So how I compensated for that early on. So the first businesses that I had, I would position myself. This is so funny now that I think about it, but I would create different email addresses, because I would position myself as the assistant to the owner. And the owner, of course, was a man. But I would manage both sides of the chain, mainly because I did a lot of business in India. I did business in Latin America, and also, stateside. I ran into similar challenges that I discovered. Whether it was my age, and as I got older, even confronting that age, there was still this stigma, especially in some of these third world countries, that as a woman, I don't have that instant credibility. And so I'm going to have the easiest way for me to get in the door. And I had to just realize, what is my goal here? My goal is I want to get this deal done. I have confidence that I can succeed, I can perform, I can do a better job than anyone else in my entire arena. But in order for me to get that opportunity, I have to first get through the door. And if the door is closed because I'm the wrong sex, then I need to figure out how I can get that open. So I thought, you know what? I can be an assistant, because how harmless is it? Everybody is talking to an assistant. So as an assistant, I would negotiate entire contracts, get everything done. I learned so much. It actually was amazing because I could be on both sides. And then I will say that every entity that I worked with at the time eventually discovered, okay, yes, I am behind the scenes, but I'm also like the person that you're dealing with. I have experiences that I went through where probably many women have gone through similar. Where I have gone to board meetings, and I'm presenting an idea to the board, and literally I own this company. I am the most knowledgeable about everything that we do. However, I don't have the respect when we sit down. In fact, I've even been in meetings, in other countries where I have been asked, even though I've had other assistants with me who were male, I've been asked to give them tea, to serve them tea first before the meeting. And literally, I had presented myself as I am the owner of this company. And the first thing that I'm asked is, would you mind pouring tea? At that moment, then, something goes through your mind. And this is something that I've learned, and through all of the opportunities that I've had, I've developed a strength to be able to, temper that and not get affected. But at that moment, then the things that go through your mind are, I want to just pick up this teapot and throw it at everyone. Or I'd like to just give these people a piece of my mind. But at the same time, I think, I'm going to be empathetic with the level of ignorance that is sitting in this room. And and so I'm actually going to use this to my advantage. And I'm going to get control of this entire situation by creating a scenario that is a no-lose situation. And in doing so, I'm going to give them everything they want. So here's their tea. And I was very polite. Here's everybody's tea. Does anybody need additional sugars? Does anyone need can I get anything else for anyone? Would you like a water? Anything? And I was very sincere. And then the conversations start. And of course, I have no eye contact, none. Nobody is looking at me. I am talking, but they won't even talk to me. They're asking my assistants, who are the right sex and the right age. But I don't have that respect. And I recognize in this meeting, there's a whiteboard. I'm a total fan of whiteboards. What a great invention they are. So I thought, let me explain, because I don't think I'm not given an opportunity to speak very much. And there's definitely a bit of an attitude in this room. I'm the only woman here. So I grab a marker, go to the whiteboard, and start explaining exactly how things need to work. And probably I talked for maybe 3 minutes, which is kind of a long time. By the time I turned around to see, what this audience is doing, I had completely garnished their respect and total eye contact, engaged conversations, and that entire situation changed in an instant. And going forward, I didn't have any situation where I didn't have the eye contact, I didn't have the respect. I had earned a position of leadership and respect that actually couldn't even be shattered. And so I learned, this is the right way to do business. Now, sometimes I think, why does it have to be that way? Shouldn't it just be the right way, that you can walk in and be any age and be any sex and not be judged and just do a great job, and you're judged just like everybody else? But I do think, there's, I think that every situation requires a different assessment, and right or wrong, I think the world needs to definitely change somewhat. But for women out there, hopefully, I can help be that mentor. And this is part of the reason why we created this program. There's so many different amazing mentors out there, and amazing women that really can help foster the way and build confidence. Because really, I think that's the number one thing you need: confidence and humility. And just, focusing on exactly what your goal is, and then deciding, what strategy is going to be best, that aligns with your standards and your values to allow you to achieve that. So through the years, I've learned, even with my own company and the culture, is that there's really 3 key things that I have found have really followed me. And if I look at things that I focus on, and the first, of course, is working hard. You don't get anywhere if you make a decision that you're not going to do what it takes. There's this great, video with Will Smith running on a treadmill, and I would encourage all of us to watch it. You can look it up on YouTube. And you think, okay, running on a treadmill, like, no one wants to run on a treadmill. But you have Will Smith saying, hey, I am going to win over anyone, because I will die before I get off this treadmill, and everyone else will get off sooner than me. And I may not be the most talented, I may not be the smartest in the room, but I will not get off that treadmill, and I will just do the same thing, and I will work harder than anybody. And that always has done very well for me. So first is working hard and persevering, not giving up. Second is having thick skin. This is super important as women. It's important as leaders. Nobody is success. There is no such thing as achieving success unless you fail your way to success. I truly believe that. The only way you can succeed is if you're willing to confront failure. And I mean actual failure, because people that succeed, they don't succeed because they happen to find the easiest path. They succeed because they built that muscle to be able to get up and get going faster and recover faster than anyone else. It's a windy path, and a lot of times it feels like it's totally uphill. It's not easy, but you have to, have thick skin. And the more people that say that you can't do it, actually harness that. I heard, this saying, rage to master. The most incredible athletes, one of the common denominators that every incredible athlete has had, like Michael Jordan, is this rage to master. And this is, taking something negative, all the people that say that you can't do it, all the things that make you upset, and actually mine that and harness it and turn it into motivation for you to succeed. And that is super important, having that thick skin to recognize every ounce of criticism you can turn into an opportunity to improve. And you can, raise the bar and use that as something that is going to help you. And then third is being professional. So, and I think this goes for women, it goes for men, but oftentimes, the philosophy is if you're a business owner, if you are a successful leader, then you need to be brash, you need to yell, you need to, you have to use profanity, you have to do all these things. I don't think you need that. You can be kind, you can be considerate, and you can also be firm. And being professional, especially as a woman in business, is so incredibly important. And especially in payments, recognizing this is really a small industry. Like many of the industries that people operate in, you don't realize how small that network is. You have no idea when you're going to run into somebody. It's never worth losing your cool and being unprofessional. So, really, at the end of the day, I always tell myself, be professional, work hard, and have thick skin. And these are things that I think, can really help. It can help anybody overcome some of the challenges that they're going to confront when you're climbing up that ladder. There's arguably been probably the biggest opportunity that we have in disputes has been brought upon by the catalyst from, the surge of e-commerce, and with COVID, all of that has had a silver lining in really forcing the world to change the way we do things and utilize more innovation. And that's been really great for us. I will say scaling is a very significant challenge. And that's, like you were talking about, like any organization, you start out thinking, okay, I got it if I can just get to this point. And then you need to scale up, and then you need to scale out. And it's just, I think that scaling component is nearly as difficult as just, deciding what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and like making your product amazing. It's making sure that you can, consistently execute over and over again at scale. So given that, this is where we're at in the scaling process, we've expanded into Singapore. We'll probably, on the horizon, we're going to be expanding more into Latin America, more into the APAC region, really focusing on scaling out as we recognize, the whole world has, it really has more of a need in being able to settle a dispute between a buyer and a seller. And we recognize as well, it's not just for card payments. So we've expanded a lot into alternative payment methods, different types of dispute applications, like with loyalty cards. Even, there's just so many different applications now with the change in digital currencies. And so we're definitely capitalizing on all those opportunities and hope to create a great impact industry-wide.